Go, Corinne, go.
Perfect. I was like, I saw something. Hi, I'm Corrin. I am a wedding photographer in Loudoun County, so I'm just over there. I'm really close by. I also am someone who is just very into Reels and TikToks and small form video. I've started coaching on that end of things as well. So I do a mixture of both coaching in terms of marketing on social media and then also a wedding photographer. That's more so the full-time job at this point. But as if anyone has seen my Instagram, Reels is where it's at, and I love it so much. So
Yeah, we're so excited to hear about this topic because I feel like it comes up often in our conversations, just in casual conversations in our group. And I have noticed your reels over the last year or two and have been so amazed and impressed at how well done they are, but they feel so natural, and also how well they perform. And I saw that you had started coaching on that, so I thought, wow, this would be such a great topic for our group. So I'll let you just go ahead and take it away. And so Corrin has some information she's going to share with us about how she does things, and then we'll do some Q&A, question and answer, after she's done sharing. So if you do have questions, you can either put them in the chat, or just write them down and hold on to them. Actually, I take that back. Put them in the chat. That way I can kind of facilitate them, and make sure we get to each one. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And I'm going to keep adding people into the meeting. So you'll probably just keep seeing faces pop up. But
perfect.
also, I think I'm the only one that's not on mute right now, but make sure you're on mute while Corinne sharing, or if you're not the one talking, just so that there's not any blended audio. But yeah.
Yeah. So I am just going to loosely talk about things because essentially Reels is such a huge topic that you can dive into so many different nitty gritty technical sides of things. And then you can also go into the broad. And so I'm just going to kind of talk about my own experience and how I have found it really benefits me, not to just post to post, but how it's actually, that's where I get most of my bookings now, is from Instagram. And so that's the whole point for me, is doing reels, is helping others, and then also it's benefiting me and making me money. You never want to just do something to do something because it's what everyone else is doing, or it's just the cool thing to do because it takes a lot of time. So if you never find something beneficial that fits your brand and your audience, don't do it. I don't know if that's the best way to start a reels talk, but I hate people that are just like, hey, you should do this and it will work for you, because sometimes it doesn't. But in terms of reels for me, I just kind of, to give a backstory of how I started, I actually started over on TikTok. I think it was 2020. Yeah, world was shutting down. My husband was like, have you heard of TikTok? And I was like, I have no idea what the cool kids are doing. What is TikTok? And so he was showing me, and I was like, oh, okay, well, there's nothing better to do. So I was just starting to scroll through. I was just looking at what the platform was and how interesting it catered to each person, very, very uniquely. So I thought that was so interesting in itself. And then after a while, I just started posting because it was going to be fun. I was just like, let's just do this. I think my first video ever was a lip sync of Olaf. It was something ridiculous. And so with that, it's just it was me personally just trying to do something because I was bored. But then I was like, I think there's a space for this for my ideal client. There's going to 100% be couples out there that are planning their wedding. Why not share some tips that I know? Why not just do that? So slowly but surely, I just started sharing tips about weddings because that's where my audience was. I see a lot of people naturally, when you're a photographer or a florist, you naturally want to talk about photography or florals and stuff like that, but that was never my audience and never what was making income for me. So that was always couples. So with that, I just started giving tips and tricks, and it started off by dancing and pointing. And I don't think there's any shame in dancing and pointing. If that's how you can show up and that feels on brand for you and feels really natural to you, show up in that way. I also think that has been such a topic for the past couple of years that it's oh my gosh, I don't want to do dancing and pointing. And I'm like, if that works for you, do it. Like, do whatever feels right. So with that, I started with dancing and pointing because that's how I was going to show up. That's the way that I felt the most comfortable. And then after that, I started sharing my voice, and it started being very much talking straight to the camera, like a conversation. And it's transformed over the past few years, from being more like, hi, I'm a wedding photographer, follow me here, and then the content. And now it's very straightforward. I just give the content, and if they like my voice and the conversation that I'm having, they naturally just come over to my page. So it's kind of just transformed over the years, and it's going to keep transforming. But that's kind of how it all got started, was just me putting myself out there, and trying literally everything. I tried the trends, I tried the dancing, and pointing, I tried the voiceovers, and whatever actually resonated with somebody, I did again. If I got like a couple of comments, even like one or two comments, I would do that video again. Try another voiceover, try another face to camera, because that's what was working for me. And then I realized trends were actually not working for me at all because I was seeing no reaction, no like interactions between clients or even people sharing. So I was like, okay, this isn't for me. This is for me. People like my face. So sometimes when I hear people say that they see my reels, because I know people see my reels, I always want to say sorry because it's literally just my face all the time. So I'm like, hi. And then I get that all the time too, where they're like, you look so familiar. I'm like, there's a chance. Yeah, there's a chance that you've seen my face like a good amount of times, because it's just what I post now. And you kind of forget after you post how many people actually see your stuff. Like, it's not just your mom or your sister or brother. It's a good amount of people. And even when you see views that are like in the thousands, people think that that's low. It's not. That's 1,000 something people seeing your content. That is far more better reach than what the carousel posts, even though I've heard that they're doing better now, but Instagram's changing every day. But essentially what happened, like, so what made me really grow was in 2020, after Reels started popping off, I started moving all my TikToks over to Reels. And then I was one of the first people to start posting on Reels. So people were like, what are you doing? You just literally went from 3,500 followers, where I was really stuck for such a long time. And then I grew to like 10K in a matter of a couple of months. And that was due to a lot of consistent posting. And again, going back to resonating with what my audience wanted. I stopped the trends. I went back to what was really interacting well. And so I continued doing that. And then that led to 15, 20, and now I'm pretty close to 60K. And that's just because of consistently listening to my audience and growing just consistently through that. I'm trying to think of other things. And so other things to also note with Reels and posting something that feels really authentically you, people resonate with that. Your future clients resonate with that. And a huge reason for why, so 2024 is halfway booked right now, and that is all through Instagram. Every single one of them is an Instagram follower and has been following me for such a long time. And I would say half of that 10, so 5, easy math there. But they literally picked their date around me. They were like, my husband and I love you because we've been following you for so long and we know your personality. Essentially, they just hopped on a call to see if that person that was on Instagram was very similar to the person that they were talking to. And then when they realized that those two people matched, they were like, we love your photos, but we love you. Like, we feel like we know you. And having someone like that on our wedding day is really, really special and important to us. So when you post things that feel natural to you, people are going to resonate with that, and people are going to want to book you because they're starting to get to know you. Other ways of using Reels for marketing is also leading people to your newsletter list, leading them to a sale, leading them to mini sessions. Like, you don't have to just keep posting informational stuff. You can start selling on Reels as well, and moving people through your funnel, which is really, really great. It's just another way of thinking about Reels, where it just doesn't have to be, again, pretty photos or this or that, but it can lead towards a sale, where you could post in your stories and you're like, find out more information, go to my DMs or go to the newsletter. It's just another smart way to strategically plan out your content. I feel like, again, I went on 10 different forks. I don't even know where to go next. Is there any place you want me to go next in my talk, or like it's literally I'm just rambling?
I'd love to hear like maybe talk a little bit more about how you decide, more about deciding on what your audience wants to see and like how you determined that.
Yeah, love it. So with that, it was really the interactions. So, and literally the views. It's like use the analytics. And if I'm gonna be really honest, I don't have a business or a creator account. So I don't see any analytics. I just see the little views at the bottom, and then I see the comments, and that's it. I think I used to be able to see shares of like if people shared it on their stories through my personal account, but I think Instagram's like, hey, you really need to get a business account. And I'm like, hey, I'm really not going to do that right now. So with that, essentially, I would just read my comments and look at the views. So with the views, if they kept growing and growing and growing, and the conversations that were happening in the comments were really wonderful, and people were like, oh my gosh, I feel this, or hey, can you explain this a little bit more? And if they even went into my DMs to be like, hey, what does this mean? Can you help me with this? Then it was content that I knew really, really worked for me. And then I would just kind of branch off of that. And so I hope that answered your question, but that's kind of how I find that a reel works or doesn't work. So like if I go through my feed and I see likes, like I have a couple that are recent that only have like 300 likes. And I'm like, okay, it was good information for somebody to know, but I need to probably have a better hook. I need to close a little bit better. Maybe I should not ramble as much and make that reel shorter. So I kind of look into the reels that did not perform as well and also take information from that. And then vice versa for the reels that did do really well. What do I feel really resonated with the people? Was it the hook? Was it the end? Was it the amount of time? That kind of thing.
Okay, a few follow-up questions. One from Katie, just general reason that you don't want to go to a business account, or why you've kept it a personal account.
There's no reason. So for me, I've always been a personal account, because whenever Jasmine Star years and years and years and years and years ago said to stay a personal account, I bet she's a business account now and I just probably haven't heard, but she said to do that so long ago, and I did that. And then for me, I was like, when reels, the play reels, somewhere where you got money for reels, I considered that, but I didn't want it to hurt my views, because what's most important to me is that people actually see the content that I'm providing. So I actually want to help people. Like I want to help couples in their process of wedding planning. Like it wasn't for the money for me. And so I didn't want to hurt my reach by just getting some money from Instagram or the analytics, because I had a good understanding with the things that I could see on Instagram. So I didn't want it to hurt my like reach towards people that could possibly hire me, which they would pay me a lot more than Instagram ever would. I hope that helps, but that's kind of what determined that for me.
Yeah. So like it was personal is working, and like why change it if it's working really well, and it could potentially harm you if you went to business. It's like
Yeah.
an unknown.
Yeah, you just never know. And maybe one day I'll change it, but for right now, I'm pretty good. I think the next thing I'm gonna kind of look into is Instagram's rolling out that subscription. And so if that requires a business account, I may move, just because I think the subscription will be something, unfortunately, I think it's going to be something that everyone's going to need in order to be seen on Instagram. So
tell us more about that. I don't know a lot about the subscription, like upcoming. How many people have heard about that? Versus raise your hand, or maybe like, yeah, you've heard. Okay, cool.
yeah, I don't know too much either. I just the dude, I don't even know his last name. His name's Adam, but the guy that runs Instagram, it's been released slowly but surely. I think it was Australia and some other country, and then now actually they're starting to slowly release it in the United States. And I actually got a notification on my phone to be placed on the wait list. So I was like, all right, maybe personal account will work. But essentially with that is, It was saying that it's like you're verified, so you can actually, if someone's trying to copy your content or someone makes the same profile as you can like talk to someone in person if you're having a problem with Instagram instead of like a bot. So you're paying for that. He did say you're just kind of paying for reach. He said that at the end of his talk, and I was like, great. That's not wonderful. I liked everything else that he said, and it made sense. You also are just like verified. It's like you send in your driver's license and stuff like that. So then they know that you're the real person behind the account. So that was really, really helpful. But other than having more reach, I was like, oof, you just lost so many people with that. Like, you don't want to pay for better reach. But I do like the idea of having verified, like people know that it's me that's on the other side. That's a little
Yeah,
bit
that's
about it. I
awesome.
don't know too much more than that.
Yeah. I'd love to like backtrack a little bit. And again, everyone keep asking your questions in the chat if you think of things that you want to ask Corinne. But I'm curious about like the actual content of the reels. Like I heard you mention like paying attention to like the hook or like the meat of the content. Tell us more about like how you see reels laid out and like what you have tried, what you've seen that works. Cause I think that like in general, I personally kind of generally understand the idea of like having a hook to get people in, but I honestly we don't do that many reels. So I would love to just hear more about the basics of how you get someone to watch or what you found is successful.
Yeah, so hooks essentially are that first 3 to 5 seconds that a person is watching your reel. And that's where you get them to either watch or they're gonna swipe, because that's where they're gonna be like, oh, this was for me, or they're gonna be like, this isn't for me. So whether it's a couple, like they're engaged, and I say, you're engaged, here are 3 things you need to add to your wedding day timeline. They're like, I'm engaged. I know nothing about a wedding timeline. So here, I'm gonna watch for the next couple seconds. And so that hook is essentially just being like introducing what they're going to be watching. And so they, in those 3 to 5 seconds, are going to be like, this is for me or it's not for me. And because people are so quick to scroll and find that next piece of content that's going to hook them in. So that's essentially the hook. And then it's just an introduction to what they'll be learning, seeing, the entertainment, that kind of thing. And then the in between part, it's kind of like a book, like a story. If you're telling a story of a beginning, middle, end. So I always like to say the middle needs to be pretty quick. It needs to, again, catch the person's eye. And also for me in my talking videos, because they have to be some of the hardest videos to keep people from beginning to end, because again, it's like a story. If you don't have the right thing, that you're not saying at the correct speed, someone's going to be like, nah, this is taking far too long. Like, I don't care that much about this information. So little tips about that and how I perform that is that I break up each sentence into little parts, and I do different separate videos for each parts of those sentences. So they're called video breaks. So if you took one sentence, I would break it up into 2 different video clips so that it keeps the people watching from one video clip to the next video clip. There's not a huge change in my videos, but you can kind of tell that there's a little bit of a change where it catches the person's eye. You'll see this a lot in YouTube videos. With longer form videos, a lot of YouTube videos will go from zoomed in to zoomed back out. And that's, again, to keep you watching because, oh, something changed. So it's just something that's like analytical when it comes to viewership, with people in the audience. And then the end is typically the closing. And that can be a way to get someone into your DMs. It can get them to comment. It can get them to share, save. Those things really help push your reel even further, to a different audience, and the reach will get better if more people interact. So those are the different ways that people can interact. And if you tell someone what to do, they typically will do it, which sometimes I feel like a lot of people don't add a ending, and they're losing out on all of that possible like push and reach, because that simple be like, save now. Oh, that's such a good idea. I will 100% save right now. Like, people just don't think about doing that until someone tells them. So when you tell them, that really helps. But yeah, so that's kind of how I formulate my reels, is like a beginning, middle, end. And that really works with any type of reel. Obviously, trends are really helpful because they already kind of have that laid out for you. The sound is the beginning, middle, and end, and then you just place whatever content as a text bubble, and boom, you're good. And then other things to, I'm trying to think of other things to think about. I
Tell
did
us more about that. I'd love to hear more like about just like that sounds like an easy way to get started if you haven't done them before.
like a trend.
How to like maybe everyone else here knows this, but I've had a hard time technically with understanding how to use those trends. Like is it just a template? Does it have to be a template? Do you have to see the template button to use it? Tell us more about that and how like
Yeah.
you've used.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different types of trends. So I'm just going to go off there. There is the music type of trends where if you're a photographer, you can highlight your photos through that. And a little tip with that, I don't know how many people, feel free to put that in the chat, like how many people are photographers. But even if you're not, like photos are such an easy way to slip into the reels. And so with that, the biggest tip that I can give you is starting off with a video and then going into the photos. Just don't start with photos. That's something people can see in a carousel or something like that, unless it is the most edgy thing you have ever seen. Like, it is very, very difficult to make a reel with photos and have that go viral. It's very hard. And so with that, I really, really recommend starting with a video of what the photos are going to be, because a video will, that's your hook. And that's going to be like, oh my gosh, I just did this engagement session on the water, and it's a video of your couple in the water. And then once the music changes, you share all of the images from that session. So that is one of my biggest recommendations if you're thinking about sharing photos. I think it is such an easy way to show up through Reels, but a bigger recommendation is start with a video. I feel like your reach will go so much further if you start with a video. But in terms of trends, there's lip syncs, there's music trends, the entertaining ones. Those are the main trends. If anyone can think of any others, please. I am not all knowing, so please share. But essentially, again, the photo ones is the one I just shared. But when it comes to like lip syncs and stuff like that, you can search through the Reels feed and you'll see if something's trending by the bottom, the sound with the little arrow. The little arrow up means that it's trending. So if you see a lip sync or something like that, say a realtor is doing this lip sync, you're like, oh my gosh, I could totally relate that to my own audience. Let me save that. And then you could do the lip sync, put your own little text bubble up, boom, you have a reel. That one's really easy too, because I do that sometimes when I want to relate to my audience. Instead of give them information, I want to relate to them. I've been a bride myself. So I've been in the wedding world trying to plan a wedding. So I understand what that feels like. So that's where I want my audience to know I can give them information, but I also relate to them. So sharing that type of content too is really good for your audience to be like, oh my gosh, she is me. Like, I get that. And then another type of trending one that I do quite often, because I photograph weddings a lot. I am at weddings and there's always new content to be shared. So even my wedding from this past Saturday, instead of a cake, she did a cheese tower. I ate that up. I was like, I am going to film really quickly. Like, obviously I did my job. My couples are my priority always. But then right after that, she was like, this better be a reel. And I was like, oh, it will be. It will be a reel. So I took all the photos and then quickly I just did like 3-second videos of different angles and that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to find a trending sound and be like, instead of cake, here's a cheese tower, and boom. And so that's a really easy way to share content to your audience through a trend, is just taking really quick videos, syncing it up to sound, a trending sound, and then boom. That's a really easy way as well of sharing content. And that's probably the most popular way to go viral and get really great reach, because the saves. That's something new that someone can add to their wedding day. A lot of people have comments about certain things. Like, I just had probably one of my most recent reels just went viral for the crossword puzzle at a wedding. And they did it themselves, and it was the nicest looking crossword puzzle ever to be seen. I've DM'd at least 100 people at this point about how to do it themselves. Cause I was like, I texted my bride and I was like, I need all the information about how you made this, because my DMs are blowing up. And so that's another way. It's just quickly sharing something from a wedding day that you're I would assume most of you are in the wedding industry. I don't know, but if you're able to see something that's unique and really special, take really quick videos and make that into a video.
Tell us more about like how you developed the like habit and ability to see that kind of thing. Maybe it just came naturally, but like
Yeah.
I've thought about this before on like wedding days. I'm also a wedding photographer, and thought about, okay, like how do I know what to film, and like the like am I filming the wrong thing at the wrong angle? Like it was interesting hearing you talk about like the cheese tower, that you got like a few short clips at different angles. So
Mhm.
tell us more about like kind of what you look for, and also how you actually film it and plan to film it on like when you're out on a job, or if there are times where you're not at weddings that you do the same thing.
Yeah. That would be a dream, is to have, like, for me, is to have someone hire me to do that on a wedding day, because being a wedding vendor yourself, like, you're there for the couple. You're not there to create content. Like, that is not your job that day. You're literally there to be the florist or the letterer or a planner. Like, you don't have time to video most of the time. And so for me, when I can create that time, it's mostly because I plan beforehand. So I send out a questionnaire to my couples, and with that, it even says like, what are unique things that are going to be happening on your wedding day that you really want me to make sure that I capture or focus on. And that's also just really good for me as a photographer to know. So with that, I got information about the cheese tower. Another one was the bride had told me about the crossword puzzle, and because they did it themselves, and so she was like, "This is really important. Like my dad and my now husband are like, they made that kind of thing." So there's that. It's like sending a questionnaire so that you have that information on hand, so you can already mentally prep, being like, I know that this is going to be around this place at some point, and you have lulls in a wedding day that you can make that happen. So for me, that questionnaire is really nice for me to have, because not only can I also know that that's going to happen, I can tell my second photographer. So I'm like, hey, watch out for this. If you can grab some video of it, I'm going to grab some video of it. We'll go from there. And she'll just airdrop that to me before she leaves. So that's another way, is to like divide and conquer. But again, that questionnaire is really helpful, because then I'm like, oh, perfect. At some point in the day, I would really like to try to get a video of this. I'm trying to think of other things. If I don't get it in the questionnaire and I just see it, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So in my mind, it does come very natural to me. So I want to just caveat with that. That's just how my brain works. But again, it's like the story. I want to have a beginning. I want to show what it is. And then I want to show how people are using it, interacting with it, because that's really important for a viewer to be like, well, do people like this? So interacting with whatever that item might be, and then the end being like safe now. So that's just another video from a different angle. So like think of it as far away, close up, interacting with people, and then a closing. Those are really kind of the things that I'm thinking about when I am videoing a detail of a wedding day. That was
That's really
really
smart.
intense. So,
No, that's like so helpful to hear. I think particularly like seeing it in actual action, because especially for those of us who are photographers, we think about getting it before anyone comes in the room, like getting it perfect. But like really what's effective for video is seeing like guests walk up and be like, this is so cool, and like, you know, taking a piece of cheese and eating it.
yeah,
Like that's not something as photographers we necessarily like get every step of, but
right.
to get a video of it sounds like it would be that, and it makes it, if you're thinking about having a variety of content for that subject, it gives you a variety of things to see as a viewer.
Yeah.
So that's, it's like a different way to think about it. Maybe videographer, any videographers here today? Because I feel like for a videographer, maybe that would come way more naturally to like think to do each of those things.
Sadly, they actually have a really hard time with reels too, because they are
Yeah,
so in their like I've talked to a lot of videographers about this, and they're so stuck in like it has to be the fanciest, most dramatic thing. So reels
professional.
to them is like a little less. And so every time I'm like, it's like this, and they're like, no, no. And I'm like, it works for me. Like it's fine. Because they think really too in depth. When it is really just do. Like
Yeah, it's
literally, I
super
just go
simple.
do, and then like a couple different angles like that, and I'm like, voila, I have a reel. So it's, sometimes they don't work. I don't want it to sound like every single time I do this, because it literally is maybe 2 minutes of me filming, like, because they're 3-second videos. I break them up. And sometimes when I get back home, I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna work. Like, none of this is good. But again, it's key to find a good trending sound too, to make sure that the people will want to watch it. And something I do in terms of finding a sound that's trending, I will start searching. I do like research on reels and TikToks quite often. And if I ever stop on a reel or TikTok that really just, I love the sound, for some reason, it just stopped me because the sound sounded really awesome, save it. Because you're not the only one that thinks that. Like the one that is with the crossword puzzle, if you go to my Instagram, it's called Ceilings. It's probably the most viral song. It's the one where they dramatically run all the time. I don't know if anyone's on TikTok or Reels, but every time that song is played on a reel, I stop. I'm just obsessed with that song. My brain is just triggered to stop and watch no matter what. So if your brain ever does that for a reel or TikTok, save it and try to use it in some way, because again, you're not the only one who's has that trigger. So that is just a little tip that I know I do all the time, and it really works for me.
Tell us about like TikTok versus Reels, like a few questions. The first is, do you post the same things to both? And if so, are you creating two different sets of content, but it's the same content? Or are you creating one video and you just repost it to both? How does that work for you?
I'm going to be very honest. I'm not posting on TikTok right now. I stopped I think I stopped during busy season last year because I had 40 weddings last year, which was way too much. And I needed to focus on them and my mental health, if I'm just being honest, and I had to take a break. So I had to pick one, and I picked Instagram, and even Instagram was, my relationship with Instagram at that point was also like finicky, because I was like, we got to focus on the couples and myself. But anyway, to speak on the TikTok thing, I'm also having my own issues right now because I don't want to post the same thing that I'm posting on Instagram as I am on TikTok. I don't want that at all. That is also very personal and very specific to what I want to do with my content. But I never want someone on TikTok to then hop over to my Instagram and just see the same exact thing. They're going to be like, well, no, thank you. Like, I will just stick over to TikTok. So I rather find a way to post different types of content and utilize the audience that's over on TikTok in their own environment, and then utilize Instagram for that own space as well. Again, that is very specific to me. I think it's very easy to create content on one platform or the other, save it, post it, voila. And I think starting out, that is, if you want to grow on TikTok, do that. There's no problem with that at all. Right now, I just have two different audiences in two different places, and I never want them to feel like, oh my gosh, well, it's literally the same account, just one has photos. I don't want that for me. So that's kind of something you could do. I think TikTok's just different in terms of the audience, the interactions. They're very honest people over there. They're going to tell you how it is. Instagram's a little bit nicer sometimes, but TikTok's real. If you do not want to post something and maybe get a very negative comment, don't post on TikTok. It may not be your audience. They're hard people over there. But I also think it really is important to figure out your audience. Like, really talk, like, write down on a piece of paper the age, the demographic, who they are, because if that's not anybody on TikTok, don't post over there. I also realized that I wasn't getting any inquiries from TikTok. So with that, it was just not time well spent. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break from this because it's not doing anything for me. Instagram and Instagram Reels are. I also cross post. What I do with my Instagram Reels, though, I post them as idea pins on Pinterest. So that's the same content. And that has actually done really, really well for me. I've gotten millions of views over on Pinterest because of doing that. And I definitely think that I've gotten followers from Pinterest, and that correlates really, really well because on Pinterest, everyone's naturally already looking at videos and photos. So now when they go to my feed, they're like, oh, there's more videos. Oh, there's more photos that I can use as inspiration for my wedding. So the two naturally coexist with one another. And I don't post all of my Instagram reels onto Pinterest. I just post my best posting ones. And so with that, then they see that there's just a wealth of, like, a library of wedding content. And they're like, wow, this is my dream land. This is everywhere I want to be and more. So that's a place that I do find I can do that. Trying to think. Did I answer your question? I think I just keep going off on like tangents.
It's great. I've been pushing you in directions to go off on tangents intentionally, because that's a good thing. We do have a few more questions though.
Yeah.
So Aaron says, so I'm deaf and everything is basically on mute for me. Do you feel like any reels that don't have any music still, or sorry, I think it says, do you feel like any reels that don't have any music that still work?
Yes. So actually I have found that my reels where I'm talking to the camera, I have them all captioned. Every single one of them is captioned. And so with that, actually, it's actually kind of sad, but I have found that it still works. But because what I do on my talking videos, I still have a trending sound playing very, very quietly down at the bottom, to help with reach. I don't ever want it to be an original audio because it doesn't have as much reach. But if that song is taken out of Instagram, that means it's taken out of my Instagram reels and I no longer have any sound on that video. This has happened a handful of times now, and I'll go back and I'm like, shoot. But because I have captions, which I find are so important, just to reach every single community, it's just so important to have captions. If you're not doing captions, please start doing them now on your stories. Please start doing them on your reels. It is so important. But that reel is still doing so well because of the captions. So that's something to always keep in mind, is that regardless of noise, Instagram is still very much a place where people listen with no noise. So even if it is on mute, like, people are going to want to read. And that's also dependent on this, like, the pace that you're doing the video, where people can read. That's something important to remember too. But I hope that answered your question. Just caption everything. It's really important. And you'll still go viral. Like, that video did so well. And it's still doing well, even though there's no sound on it anymore. Like, people are just watching me mouth and I'm like, it's fine. It's okay.
So you're saying that if the trending sound gets taken off, your audio also gets taken off and all they see is the caption. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yes.
Good to know. And good to know it still performs well. I feel like that's really encouraging.
I was really sad. There's one that the reel wasn't doing that well anyway, so that one I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, sayonara. But this one was doing really well, and then that trending sound, like that's something to keep note of. Make sure you're picking sounds that really work with Instagram. Like, make sure that you're picking them that are through an artist that's going to stay. Like, if you do a trending sound, sometimes Instagram just takes those off, and that's the risk that you have to take. But yeah, it's really nice to know that people are actually reading it. And that's wonderful for me and wonderful for a lot of people. It's just really encouraging.
Few more questions.
Yeah.
This one, since you're not like actively using TikTok right now, you might not have an opinion, but do you ever worry about the personal information security stealing / issues with TikTok, or have you in the past?
My husband and myself have two different opinions on this. I don't worry. I am in the mindset, which is probably a very naive mindset, that I'm already on it. It's already probably too late for me. That sounds so negative, but they probably have what they need and it's already too late. Like, my stuff's already out there. So there's like no going back for me. It's there. And also, like, with my entire business just being all over the entire interweb, like, I don't think about it too much. I also don't share but so much in terms of personal stuff. People still question if I'm married because I don't share my husband at all. So, like, I share not a lot of personal stuff anyway. So in terms of that, I'm not too worried. But it's a great question. I get that one a lot, actually. And for me, that's just my mindset, and I just keep posting regardless. But obviously I watch what I post in terms of like what's personal to me and what's not personal, that kind of thing.
Got another question. Any tips for reels for Facebook? I tried posting a reel on Insta the other day, but it didn't pull to Facebook correctly. Might be a user error, but how can we use the video reel content on Facebook too? Like, how does that work?
I do not do that actually. I am not on, and again, this is just the audience thing that we were talking about earlier. I just find that my audience isn't on Facebook. And so they're like, please go post that over there. They're literally the same exact platform. So just keep posting. I can look that up for you and do more research. Let me write that down. But I'm happy to look into that. I just don't do it myself because I'm barely on Facebook for my personal life. Like I don't even remember the last time I posted. And that's really because again, my audience isn't there. I really try to hone in on where my audience is, which is my newsletter, my Instagram, and then Pinterest. But that's again, still a lot of cross posting. Facebook Reels. I'm gonna look that up.
Oops, I was muted. Sorry. That question was from Sarah Pete, if I didn't already say that.
Okay.
Let's see, did I miss any questions so far? I don't think I missed any questions. I personally have a few more questions. Everyone keep posting if you have questions. I'm curious about like being on camera, like your face, and posts that are like the cheese tower that you were talking about. So I have this is a two-part question. The first question is, do you always show up on those reels? Like in that post about the cheese, were you also in it? And then, okay, that's good to know. And the part two of that question is, have you found, what are the positives and negatives of both? And or have you found that one typically performs better than the other?
I think it depends on the content. It's a tricky question. So I do find that reels, that's a tricky question because like with the cheese, I'm gonna do, since I haven't made the cheese one, I have a pickle one. If that was probably my most viral thing that I've created thus far. It's a pickle bar that was at a wedding, and this is kind of what started me quickly videoing things. Because again, I had taken all the photos that I needed. So I also had first access because I was the photographer. So no one had seen it yet. So I was like, all right, let me just do a couple of videos. And then again, doing the interaction videos. And then I really wanted a video at the end of the bride eating a pickle. That was really important for me to close the video. So with that, my face wasn't in it at all because it has nothing to do with me. I wanted to be solely focused on what that content was, which was the pickle bar, which again, just the coolest thing. And so with that, I kind of waited. I waited until I was going to hear a trending sound that was just going to be absolutely perfect with that video, like that video series in my mind. I wanted to find a sound that was going to work so well. So I did, and I found it on TikTok, and I just made sure I matched it up as best that I could. I sent it over to my sister because she is 7 years younger than me, and I was like, please tell me that this is going to be awesome. And she's like, oh, this is going to go viral for sure. And so with that, that's kind of how that one worked. And then in terms of my face one, I think it really depends on the content and again, how quickly it's done and then how unique it is to the viewer. And if someone feels like they can share it to somebody. So sometimes if I share content and it is something no one else has really even heard of, that one goes really, really viral. My videos on like I have my face about wedding songs, those ones go really viral. I don't know why, but they do. My most recent one, and so I'll talk about the negative of this one, and I'm not afraid to talk about negative things with reels because it can get really hurtful really quickly. And this one did. This one was of my face, and it was me doing like a lip sync to a wedding song. And if anyone knows me, I am just this type of person all the time. I sing in the car. I've created dances to almost every song. Like this, like I'm just a silly person. And so doing that type of stuff is very, very natural to me and something I have a lot of fun with. And because I just love music. So I do them quite often. This one went really viral because the song was newer. And that's what I try to do when I find wedding songs are newer songs. And I was lip syncing to it and it just went berserk. And the comments went so bad, so fast. And I laugh because it's just funny of how sad people can be. They were making fun of my face. They were making fun of like the energy that I was giving off. They were making fun of the way that I looked and all of this stuff. If you could go, it's still there. All bazillion comments of them. Like there was even one, I can't remember what specifically it was, but I think they were like saying the song was a 10 and her energy is a 1. And I was like 200 and something people liked that comment. I was like,
Oh
come
my
on.
gosh, that's so mean.
It's really mean. I'm laughing because like I at this point know who I am and I know that that doesn't affect me. And I just want to you like going viral is very cool. It opens up the doors to a lot of opportunity and a lot of people to find you, work with you, and that's really wonderful. It also opens up the doors to people who just have nothing nice to say. And they have nothing better to do with their time than comment something because they don't think of you as a person. They look at the video, have something in their brain, and they just place it in there. And so I just want that to be out there all the time because I do get a lot of DMs from people being like, my video went viral, but like people are being so mean right now. And I'm like, and they're like, you get this all the time. I'm like, thank you. And I'm just like, this is my mindset. I've tailored my mindset to be this way now because at the very beginning it was really hurtful. People were making fun of like how I talked, how I looked, and it was hurtful. Like I can't change that. I can't change how I look. I can't change how I talk. So with that, there's a lot of positives, but there's those negatives of placing my face into the camera and that going viral. Like that one has like 5 million views. 5 million people saw me act silly and with my face. So it's bound to happen. But that's something that I always like to speak about just because it's not always just rainbows and daisies. There's some negative people out there. But another thing to also remember is those people aren't your people. Those people aren't following me. They don't care. They don't care about my wedding content. And the people that do, they follow and they share and they stuck up for me. A lot of people stuck up for me in the comments. A lot of people sent me DMs being like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm good. Like, so I have a community that really does care. It's just those people that don't, and they just scroll on by, and that's all that they really do in their lives. But let's see. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and
And
that's
some,
like I feel like that's really I had not considered that about a video that gets tons of views might like often attract some negative comments. So it's like something to maybe be aware of, like if like you're thinking about doing reels, but you're not sure, like maybe don't start. Like if that's something you're nervous about, it's probably not good to start there.
it's just
But also,
beware. Like, just kind of have a self
yeah,
talk with yourself of like, okay, this is what I can do. Like, this is gonna hurt me. This is not gonna hurt me. And you don't know until a comment comes up because sometimes when I have the like I share stuff from my like my bride's weddings and I get some comments that are like, why would she do this? Like, this is so selfish. And I'll be like, that's a different side of me where I'm like, I'm mama bear. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to need you to step back. Like, no, thank you. And then I'll just kind of comment back being like, nope, that's not their intention at all. Like, this is what their heart was behind it. And I'm never mean, but I will say I will defend very easily towards because that's their treasured moment of their wedding day. And I do
right.
get permission from every single couple to post stuff. So, but I always want to make sure that I'm always commenting back, making sure that my couples, if they do ever look, they know that I have their back. And their heart behind everything that I post.
Yeah, that's really good to know too. I wouldn't even have thought of that. Um, I think we have a couple more questions on here. Here's one from Alex. Do you feel you have to edit your phone videos to match the aesthetic of your content and photos, or is it okay to have a video just out of the phone without any filter or editing?
So for me, I'm very lucky and I'm very blessed to have this beautiful office. And so I know that a lot of people don't have a natural background or the space like this. So for me, this works really well. If I didn't have this, I would still place myself in front of a window, and if I feel like I want to put a filter on, I will. It's called the natural filter, and I'm not ashamed. It's just, it makes me feel better, and that's how I show up, and I'm able to help people with my content. And so let me read the comment a little bit more. But I'm not really worried about the aesthetic necessarily, because some of my videos actually, like if I want to post content and I'm at my parents' house, their aesthetic and it looks nothing like my aesthetic. So I will still post, and I'll just maybe do it outside, where I'm in natural light or something like that. Natural light is the most important for me, because I just find that that works with my face really well. I don't know.
What
But I
about
don't.
like the non, like when you're out at a wedding and you're
Oh, those
taking
ones.
video and then like you show the photo later, like do you want those two to match up, or are you like, is the video you film at a wedding day just straight out of the camera?
Straight out of the camera. Yeah, it's more real in a way. People don't feel they feel like they're there watching it. And it's more authentic to that. And also it's way less work to figure all the editing things out. Like I if it no, I would never do that. It's just way too much work, and I don't even know what I'm doing when it comes to video editing. So if I'm going to be honest, I just don't do it because I don't know how. And it would take way too much work. Also, like the aesthetic of it is just it's all in the same light when I'm doing it really, really quickly, so it doesn't change that much. And even if it did, it would keep the viewers watching a little bit more because something changed. Like if it was you filmed it in the daylight and then it's now a view of the nighttime, awesome. They got to see what it would look like in the day and the night. Like, but I don't think there's need for editing. And then I do think it's actually cool to have the photo that you took of it in your feed. And then you could post that in your stories being like, hey, this is the film of what this looked like. This is what it looked like when I took a photo of it, to show you're a professional photographer alongside like this really cool idea. So not only are you giving them content for like inspiration, but you're also showing off your amazing skills as a photographer.
How do you decide on like cover photos? And like how do you plan your feed? How do you see that those two things interacting? Like, do you not really care about how your feed looks? Do you just focus on real content, or do you pay attention to both of those equally? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I decided a long time ago, aka pretty much the beginning. If you scroll all the way down, good for you. There's no cover photos at that point. I don't even think they existed yet. And so with that, I didn't have cover photos for the first five. But then as soon as I realized that I wanted them to match my feed alongside, also I thought cover photos were cool because it tells you what's inside the content, like what's inside. It's kind of like a library. You're looking at all the books, and those are the covers. And I want people to be like, oh, this says timeline on it. I will click on that. Or, oh, this says this. I'll click on that. Like I want them to make sure that they're reading what's inside before they even click on it. Instead of it just being a pretty cover photo of a picture where they're like, I don't know what this is. Like it's a pretty picture, but what's the video? So that's really helpful for me to do a cover photo. And I just continue doing that now because it just looks good. I still very much care about the aesthetic part because I am a wedding photographer and I want that to coexist. I've seen a lot of wedding photographers successfully have a Reels feed with no cover photos. It's just videos of them and their face and whatever they're posting, and it works so well for them. And if that's something you want to do, it works beautifully, 100%. But for me, because I've been doing this for so long now, I stick with it, and that's it. That's really why. If I could, I've actually second guessed it now and then of like maybe just foregoing the cover photos because it does take a little extra time. But in terms of placing it in the feed, I will just place a cover photo that matches what's inside the video itself. So if I'm talking about a reception, I will put a reception photo with the cover photo. And then if it matches the feed, it just happens to match the feed, I'll keep it in there. But if it doesn't, then I will remove it. It also, if it's a reel that's doing very, very well, I'll keep it regardless if it's matching everything else. But typically my
And
photos match one another because I am a photographer and my style is very similar.
do you always have your reels also posted to your feed, or are some just in? Yes. Mhm. Yep.
Always post a feed, always. There is not a time that I would ever say just post to reels, unless again Instagram changes things and that's what they recommend. Right now on this day, I 110% post it to feed.
I think
You
we
just won't get any reach if you just post it to reels.
That makes sense. And also like you automatically are going to get more visibility even just by people coming to your feed versus going to the reel section.
Yeah, exactly.
Couple more questions that have been posted. Do you have any favorite content creators for inspiration other than yourself, that you would say I go to this person to get inspired for what to do next?
I have other people that I don't necessarily look at for myself, but I think they are doing such a wonderful job with their own content. So Cassidy Lynn,
Mhm.
she is a wedding photographer. She posts a lot of content to other wedding photographers. So that's where again, like our content doesn't really line up. And she also intertwines a lot of trends. Nathan, his last name is so strange, but he is a wedding photographer who posts a lot to other wedding photographers, but he does a lot of original content, which is very funny, because he'll talk about like wedding photographers on a wedding day, and like then he's like literally speaking out everybody's mind as soon as they wake up. They're like, oh, now I have to turn off the 20 alarms that I just turned on. Now I need to go turn off my wife's 20 alarms that I also placed on her phone. So like he does a lot of original content like that, like literally all the things that we go through. So that's really inspirational to be like, okay, what do I do on a daily basis and how can I create this because other people totally resonate with this.
He's
Um
really funny. I follow him too.
he's very funny. Oh,
Yep,
speaking of him, he is right there. So
there he is.
it's like his original audio is going just it works really really well for him, so that's inspirational in itself. And he grows so fast, so like that's really fun to watch him. I'm gonna put him in the chat thingy.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you. And I think I have one more question in here. This is from Diana. I'm not a photographer, but curious if there's a space for reels that are more on the educational side of things. Teach HoneyBook. For context, I basically have to take my phone to record my desktop, but that means the video is grainy from the screen. Thoughts on that? So I think that the question's getting at, if you're not a wedding vendor and you're not like out getting content on a wedding day, what kind of content can be created for someone who like their main work is at their desk, at their computer?
Yeah. So something that I just thought off right off the bat is doing a lot of type of B-roll type of videos. So essentially like in this space, I would video me on my computer. And then there's like you could do a voiceover of your own voice. Like today, hey, I'm working on my HoneyBook thing. I'm doing this, and this. Or it could be a sound and you place a text bubble. Again, it's just a lot of B-roll of you working. And if you were to do a voiceover, that's one type of reel. You could do tips, you could do a text bubble. That in itself, people sit there and watch because it's informational. And a lot of people like to see that type of content because it's behind, they feel like they're in the room with you, like it's behind the scenes. So that's something I would do if I was that type of creator. I love that idea. And then also you could do a lot of face to camera once you get the hang of it, where you could be like, hey, like if you're a HoneyBook user, here are 3 tools that I'm using today, or something like that. Like do face to camera ones. I would definitely, the videoing your screen is always difficult. And yes, if it looks grainy, don't post it. Like, just don't do that to yourself. It's just not going to work out. People aren't going to view it. Even if you're thinking that, everyone else is going to think it too. But you could always try maybe screen recording from your phone. That could work in terms of a reel. It doesn't work either.
The desktop of HoneyBook, the functionality is different than on mobile app.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of how to make educational stuff of like, hey, to do X, click here, go there and do that. But then it's like grainy content, but everyone's always asking how to do it. So I don't know how
Could
to
you
answer the question.
try, and this might not work, but if you do like the screen recording function, I'm thinking this because I had a similar thing I wanted to post on Instagram a while ago. And I screen recorded, like Command Shift 4, and I made the screen recording like closer to the size of a phone. And then I just tried to fit the computer content. Like it's not perfect, but if you can manage to like get the dimensions right of because that type of screen recording, I think works you can choose any dimension. That helped me like fit my computer like browser into I have a bigger desktop, so there was a little more space to condense down. And then you might not be able to get the full browser, but if you were able to like work within a half of the browser, it might work, especially if you took like little clips of each thing. You know what I mean? Have you done the screen recording thing that way before?
I have not.
It might not work, like, but I think particularly if you're doing something in HoneyBook, this is just me again, because I had to do something similar recently. Like, if you want them to click someplace, like you wouldn't necessarily need to show the whole screen of HoneyBook on your desktop. You could like record a piece of it of you clicking here, and then it would take a little bit of time to create. But even with what Corrin was saying about like having quick videos, like 3-second long, like you wouldn't need a long video where you're showing you moving all over the desktop. You could do quick clip here, quick clip over here. I don't know if it would work, but
Interesting.
Another
Okay,
idea that I had was because HoneyBook is it's tough to teach in such a small amount of time. So what I would do, and this would actually really help your newsletter or something like that, is film exactly what you want to teach. Have it be like 5-7 minutes. And then what you're going to do is create a reel that will entice people to go watch the longer form video. Because I don't think trying to teach on something that is just so like, that is just such a hard topic. It's not something that someone can digest so quickly. And so if you were to do the 5-7 video where people would actually they would benefit so much from that video and its length, it'd be like, oh, perfect. This is exactly what I needed. And then break that into a reel to then generate people to go to that. And that will get people to your newsletter. And if you ever wanted to sell something like a template, I don't even know if HoneyBook does templates, but like if you want to sell something there, like you have people on your newsletter, so it's actually funneling people in a better place than just having them in. Does that make sense? Okay.
that's a really
That
good
is
idea.
a fascinating idea. Yeah, thank you for
I would
that.
do that more so than trying to compile everything. And then just keep things like really tight and like on a reel. Again, doing the B-roll thing that I was saying, like then that's like, oh, what is she working on? Oh, she has a link to what she's working on. Like
Yeah.
it's just if it makes sense to me, sometimes I'm like, perfect. Like that's exactly the flow of, and then it's gonna work so well with, you could do that really with anything, actually. I love that idea. That's a good idea.
And if you had
I like
recorded
that.
it
How
and it
could
was
I
like,
use this idea?
yeah, if you had a little like 1-second clip of a screen record, not like you recording your computer, but like literally a screen record, it would be so zoomed in that maybe someone would be like, wait, what was that?
Yeah,
You know,
like
rather than it's like intentionally like, wait, I didn't quite see all of that. Like, what's the rest of the screen look like?
right.
I don't know.
But yeah,
Geniuses. Thank you.
Oops. Sorry about
Good
that,
for you.
guys. Okay. I have a couple more questions on here. This is from Sarah Pete again. Do you use any apps for social? Like, do you use Canva or like anything like that to help?
I use Canva for my cover photos, and I have a template. If anybody wants that template, I can send that over to them.
That'd be
I don't know
awesome.
if I have that as a freebie, but I can send that to you really easily. It's literally the easiest thing. So, but I
Yeah.
have a template that if anybody wants that, I can send that to them. And then, what else do I use? I try to use the Instagram interface the most because Instagram really likes when you do that. And I just, again, face to camera ones are really easy. And when you also just have videos from your phone and you just upload that. But if you do not want to use that, CapCut is a video editing app that I do enjoy using. But again, I try to stick with Instagram, and that's what you'll actually see most of my videos. It will say, use this template because I use Instagram and their features so often. That CapCut is really popular, and it's free for all the things that you need it to be free. I think you could pay for something, and I don't think you need to. So it's just a really good app to use if that's easier for you.
Awesome. Okay, so Diana is going to send out an email, by the way, guys, after this Zoom with the replay. And then Corrin, if you want to share that template, that would be amazing. We can send that out to the group that was here too. So one more just kind of general all-encompassing question, and if you guys have other questions, feel free to post them now. This is your last chance. But any other like just general like tips, tricks, things to look out for? I know earlier you said something about like you said about like doing shorter clips that because that pulls people's attention in. And then you also said like, oh, I can't remember what it was. I wrote it down, but it was like, I don't do this because it's not good for like boosting. Any just general like little things that are like, oh, it'd be really good for you to know this tip or trick of like, this makes something perform really poorly if you do this, or this all automatically will be a good thing for your reel.
So many. So I'll kind of just go over some like brief ones that I like. Okay, so for me, I have a posting schedule. Mine is going to be very different because my audience is different. So if you want to know, I post at 9 a.m. Not daily, because this week's just not been the daily type of week. That's fine. And so if I don't post a reel at 9 a.m., then I will post a carousel post with images at 8 or 9 p.m. That's kind of, I stick to a schedule just so that I can try to post as consistently as possible. When it comes to reels though, in the morning, what I do before I post is I try to interact with past comments and DMs and everything. That's my time to interact with my community. So I will do that before I post my reel. And then when I post my reel, I'll wait like maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I will post that into my stories. And after I post into stories, I also want to make sure that in my stories, I'm not just posting the reel. I am telling more about the content that I am sharing. And then I will try to add a question box or a poll to that particular story, being hopefully my first story of the day, so that people, if it's the first story of the day and people interact with it, it gets pushed to more of your audience. If it has an interactive element in it, because it's telling Instagram, when more and more people interact with it, it's telling Instagram that people like your story. So it just gets out to more people, which means that more people are seeing your reel, which is wonderful. If I have more to say about that reel, then I will post another story explaining a little bit more about what is in there, or if anyone has any conflicting things, like if it's like a topic like the pickle one, like, do you like pickles? Like, we'll talk about food next. Like, I don't know, keep talking about what's in that reel. So then people are like, oh, she's still talking about it. It must be a good reel. So then they'll maybe click back, and, or you could post that third story, missed it. Here it is again. I'm a good friend. So like that's something to do. And that's something I do, is trying to start a conversation with the reel, so that again, more interactions are happening. It will hopefully reach more people. And that's kind of what I do as soon as I post a reel. If anyone, I don't get notifications because I'm not a business account. I have no clue who really shares it. If people tag me, then I will happily in my DMs be like, thank you so much. Always like answering DMs as they come in and making sure that I am being as useful as humanly possible. Again, I only dedicate certain points of my day to that though, because I can't be on Instagram all day long. But that's something I do as well. So that's a little bit about my posting strategy. I'm trying to think of like little snippets of things that I do that are like not secrets, but like they just really work well for me. In terms of finding content, sometimes if I'm ever struggling to find content, this is like my secret. But what I do is I'll be like on TikTok. TikTok just has a lot of really great ideas. Even if you're not posting, your content that your audience is watching will also go onto your feed. So I do still get like wedding tips and tricks because that's the content that I'm promoting. So when I see that type of content, I'm not even watching the video. If it's gone like viral or something else, I don't even want to watch that because I never want to copy someone else's content. That is a no-go for me, like no thank you. So, but what I do is I go over to the comments and I read all the questions that they have. That is now new content for me because those are questions that they have about the content that that person's sharing, or a piece of content that like I've never even really thought about before. And I was like, oh, that's a really wonderful perspective or a really wonderful question that they have. I am going to create content because I know that that's some like information that someone's wanting and needing. I know that person's not the only one. So that's something that I do. That's like a secret. That it's so helpful, and it's right there at you're already scrolling, just like jot that down. Also, your notes app is such a wonderful place to put reels ideas. If you're just not in the space to be able to like write out content or think about something, but like you're in the bathroom, your phone's there, write it on a note. Or if you're scrolling and you have this random idea, put it in a note, and then you can expand on it later, but don't lose that idea. So use the notes app. I do that a lot while I'm scrolling and researching, or just randomly sitting doing nothing. That's something that I like to utilize a lot. Hashtags are dumb. They're not like, they don't really, I put like 5 down, but like I feel like that's a question sometimes. We're like, what about the hashtag strategy? I'm like, there's not really one anymore. It changes daily, so that's where it's like confusing, and I never rely on hashtags. Put them there if you feel like it. I usually put like 3 to 5, all about wedding stuff, because that's the content that is going to be watched. But be very specific again about that. Only place hashtags that are relevant to the content that you're sharing. I think that like those are like little random tidbits of like things that I do that are in my brain. I don't even know, again, I don't think that answered the question, but
That was great. No, that
there's
was
that.
super helpful. I just figured like the first thing that would come to your mind would probably be ones that you think are more important because they're coming to your mind fast.
Yeah.
And do you have any like resources, or if anyone wants to like reach out to you or is interested in doing like Reels coaching with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you? How does that work?
Yeah. So if anyone's like, I need help, I have a lot of different services. With the services that I recommend, obviously you guys are very close to me, so we can always meet up and do a one-on-one. But there's Zoom consultations where we'll just do something very similar to this, and we talk very in depth about what Reels would benefit you and your audience. And I do a lot of, before that, even that whole Zoom call, I do a really big deep dive into your Instagram, your audience. It's kind of like if you were to do a brand photography session where someone's like digging so deeply into your brand, that's what I do, but in terms of Reels. And so then on the Zoom call, I get to answer any of your questions, but then I'm also talking you through ideas that I'm having, and we kind of brainstorm a lot of different, kind of like what we just did. Like we're just brainstorming different things that can really help your audience and help you grow. And then I have another one that's called Done For You Reels. And this is actually a very high end Reels service that I do, but I come and create your Reels for you. So if you're a product based, if you're a service based, I literally will create all of the Reels for you. I come to your house or wherever you would like me. Sometimes we do studio work as well, but we create the Reels. Again, it's really dependent on the client, but 1 to 2 days of creating the Reels specifically for you. And so that after that time, you have about 3 to 4 months worth of Reels ready to go, which is really, really great. It's really wonderful if you're looking to do a launch of anything anytime soon. So I worked with like Abby Grace Photography before she launches like any brand course and stuff like that. She hires me to create Reels for her. I've worked with Emily Baird design. She's an invitation artist. I did her stuff because she's just popping off all the time. And she actually wanted to upsell her paper goods. She wanted people to get to thicker paper. And so she's like, I need Reels and I don't have time. And so I was like, I will come do that. So I did those for her for a while. So it's that type of service. If you're looking to up level and you don't have the time to create Reels for yourself, I come in and do them for you. But yeah, you can find all of this information on my website, and you can also just email me and we could talk so much further, because obviously I talk a lot. So
We'll include a link to your, Diana just posted in the chat if you want to grab it now. We'll also include it in
That's
the
so
email
good.
that we send out, so that you guys can get in touch with Corrin if you have like more questions and are interested in working with her more extensively. But just in general, thank you so much, Corrin, for sharing
Yeah.
like so much knowledge. And this was like so helpful. And I really feel like you were very like super open with a lot of different strategies you use. So thank
Yeah,
you so much for that. And thank you for your time, like
of
just
course.
speaking. And we're really, really grateful. Yeah, any other thoughts from the group before we wrap up?
Oh, you're talking to me. We're talking to me?
Just for the whole group. Whole group, does anyone have thoughts? Not
Okay.
you, Corinne. Sorry, I should have specified.
I was like, I can keep going. I can go all day. It's fine. No, this is
I'm
awesome. Thank you
seeing.
so much for having me. Like, this was so much fun. I clearly like talking about this topic a lot. It's such a, like, it's hard to start reels. It's hard to start. It's such a unique space to be in. But once you start, you're going to keep going. And the more you do it, the better you get. Sometimes if you scroll down, like, again, you can use me as a reference. Like, if you scroll down far enough, you're going to be like, whoa, she started somewhere, all right? Like, it's rough. Like, it's not the best, but like I got better and better and better due to the practice, and due to a lot of research. But like I had to start somewhere, and that's kind of what Reels is just putting yourself out there and then trying and trying again until something clicks, and then you're like, got him. Like, I'm good. I'm selling all the things. I'm being the best boss lady I can ever be. So it's just starting somewhere, which is really great. But thank you so much for having me. Hopefully I can attend a meeting at some point. Like, if you guys do anything in person, because I'll be in DC tomorrow. I'll be in DC Thursday. Anyone else doing Cherry Blossom? Because ew. Not fun. But yeah, no, I'm in DC all the time, so that'd be so fun to meet and all the things.
Yeah, we meet monthly on Thursdays, and we post that usually in the Facebook group. I think I added you to the Facebook group if you weren't already in there. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to see you in person. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be so fun because I love meeting people. So
yes.
I just haven't seen people in person in so long. So I'm like, yay.
Come on over. Yeah, I think we already had our March meeting, right? So our next one will be in April, but I'll make sure you get the information because I'd love to see
you. Yeah, no, that's great. Anyway, I could talk to you guys forever. So I'm going to let you guys go. So.
Well, thank you once again. Thank you everyone for coming. April 27th, thank you, Diana, is our next meeting. It's a happy hour. Get the information specific to timing and location in our Facebook group, but hope to see you all there in person then.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.